Derwin and Vicki, great to have you on the cruise, to say the least. You're speaking to as many fans as can fit into the rooms. I mean, we're pushing people away because they want to hear from the two of you. What's the message that you want them to take away from what you presented and are sharing today?
Yeah, so for our morning side, we as we prayed and talked about it, what we wanted to communicate is essentially this: to be lit up with the love of Christ. The love of Christ is not something that is earned, it's not worked for. It is a pure gift that before we were ever born, God set his heart to love us. That love is reflected in the cross, the resurrection, and ultimately that love wants to live in us to do what? To light up this world with his love that's full of darkness with light and hope. So that's pretty much the message.
Vicki, when you were at BYU, you imagined, yes, later I will speak to a group of Latter-day Saints on a cruise ship. I mean, that was a cool experience. A lot of people came to worship in various ways this morning, and you guys were a part of that. What was that like?
Oh, I was so overwhelmed. I think, first of all, just the sheer numbers, but then we had people like Tom Homo, the athletic director, and just a dear friend and huge part of his life while we were at BYU. He came up, Liz came up and said, hey, Brian. So, and just other players came up. And so it's just overwhelming, the support. It's exactly what we experienced when we were at BYU. And even this entire time on the cruise, people have been nothing but just so gracious, so thankful, and so kind, and we continue to go, BYU has the best fans in the world.
They're amazing. And the idea that a different denomination could speak and talk about the Savior and talk about God and feel that, for some people that's unique. They may have not gone to or heard from a pastor like you guys, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, we are astonished and grateful that as people who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the access to communicate the love of Christ, the grace of Christ, it's overwhelming. And I think it's also a testimony to, we really appreciate what we experienced at BYU. Like, it was like Coach Edwards was my coach. I got to meet my wife there. I've got lifelong friends there. And so it matters to us. But if you'd have told me in 1989 that a kid that stuttered, who could care less about church or scriptures, would be doing this, I'd be like, no way. I mean, but that's the kind of God we have. That which we think is impossible, he does the him possible.
Derwin and Vicki Gray with us on BYU Sports Nation. This is a question for both of you. At what point in your collegiate careers at BYU did you feel truly accepted and like BYU can be a place for me, even though, Derwin, you're not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? What was that turning point, and when did and how did it happen?
Yeah, I think for me it was probably my sophomore year. My first career start was against the University of New Mexico. So what a lot of people don't know is for the first 3 games of the year, I didn't start. I came in off the bench. So Josh Arnold, Norm Dixon started. I came in off the bench. But for the first 3 games, I was defensive back player of the game 3 games in a row, and special teams player of the game 3 games in a row without starting. So finally, I start, and in my first start, I had 3 interceptions in 2.5 quarters. So I didn't even play the full game. And it was after that game, it was like, okay, like I'm in, and so I'll never, ever forget that time. But I think people like Coach Edwards made you feel like you belong, Tom Homo, Dick Felt. And then, I just had tons of great teammates, Ty. Yeah, man, it was, BYU fit me for what I needed, and I'm grateful.
Yeah. I would say for me, it was probably my junior year was when I started to kind of maybe feel like I was getting my footing a little bit. But I will say Craig Poole, who recruited me, he was so incredible. Like, he was the most encouraging coach. Like, he made you believe you could do things you never thought possible, right? And I'll never forget when I threw my my PR at UC Irvine. It was like 154.3, and it was probably like 20 feet further than I'd thrown, right? Which in the javelin, that's big. And but he's like, I knew you could do it. I knew you've got more, well, I didn't have more, but it's okay. But really just, he was so inclusive because on the track and field team, there were people really from all over the world. And he did such a great job of making us feel included. And then when we met, it was like I gained another family with the football coaches and players. So it was just really beautiful.
Which brings me to this. You guys talked about the diversity on the roster now. Obviously, BYU, as he calls himself, Jake Retzloff. Maury Bamba is a Muslim player.
Yeah.
Polynesians, black players, white players, players from all over the country, international players. We've had Ziggy Ansah from Ghana and so on and so forth. What is it like to see what BYU has become now?
Yeah, so when I played, so 89 through 92, we may have had like maybe 9 or 10 black dudes on the team. I would have never pictured or imagined that half the roster would be non-white and that so many of the players would be a non-LDS players. I think that's something that BYU should use. History matters. Where you are today is influenced by where you were yesterday. And so 1978 isn't that long ago. I was 7. So to be where we are today and have a roster with as many players that are non-white, non-LDS is powerful. And one of the themes that I talk about is this: let's not be colorblind, let's be color blessed. Like, God doesn't make mistakes with people's culture and ethnicity. We learn from the differences that are in another person. The differences in another person brings out a part of us that we didn't have, and likewise. And so I think what Kalani and his staff has done, particularly on the football team, is quite remarkable. It really, really is.
Kalani's culture is certainly a topic that has garnered a lot of interest, especially over the last year, coming from a 5-7 season to going 11-2. It's something I know that you believe in, and you spoke with the team several times. Derwin and Vicki, you've been around as he has done that. But what specifically have you seen Kalani do that you feel like is in line and is working so well with the mission of BYU football?
I think at first people thought, like, okay, he's talking about love, he's talking about humility, love and humility. And like you don't have to be a barbarian to play football. Love is not just sentimental feelings. Feelings come and go like the wind. True love is unconditional, self-sacrificial, desiring the best of another. You can win football games that way, but more importantly, you win life that way. And humility means I'm always in a posture of learning and growing. It's like a growth mindset. And so when you look at BYU, for us to be an 11-2 team, like, we're starting on the recruiting end to get more 4-star players, but we don't have a lot of 4-star players. So we punch way above our weight class, but also, switching gears, when you look at BYU's defense and what they do, you have to be very intelligent. So you have to be intelligent, you got to be disciplined, and then you got to want it. So, and Colorado felt all of that, which, by the way, was most glorious. So a little insider information. So I was asked to run out the flag in my hometown of San Antonio, which is great. I had one order from my wife: don't get hurt. So didn't get hurt.
Stretch the hamstring.
Stretch them. But when Colorado was in the tunnel, I looked around and I said, "Where's their big guys?" Then BYU came out. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna win big." Because we were so much bigger. So props to Dion and his coaching staff. I'm shocked they won as many games as they did with the lack of size that they have. Travis Hunter, he's the real deal. But I'm not surprised that we blew them out at all. But love and humility is what Kalani does, and that helps you win on the field, and it helps you win off the field.
Can't thank both of you enough for spending some time with us and being here and making yourselves a part of Cruising with the Cougs. Certainly an unforgettable part. You are largely in demand, and I do want to add this as a closeout. You brought up the New Mexico game, Dewey. This is not a joke. I have a very visceral and poignant memory of sitting in front of the old Zenith 26-inch television in my home in Clinton, Utah, as a 7-year-old kid.
Unbelievable.
Okay, with my siblings and my parents. One TV, because that's how we did it back then, right? With homemade popcorn and talking about you and your 3 interception game. That is not a joke.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, I am glad to have played a little part in your childhood core memories. That's awesome.
I appreciate
Thank you guys so much for having us.